At last we find what we have been searching for 6 months along the Persian Gulf. An open market in human beings. This one takes place in the courtyard of an old fort. 3 men and 3 women are on sale, all Africans. They appear resigned to their fate. Slaves come from black Africa. They can also be procured on the Arabian Peninsula. Sometimes all you have to do is organize a party, the kind the British have called slaving parties. We hear about such a party in Qatar. There's music, dancing, laughter, the kind of entertainment that doesn't take place every day in the desert. The girls come out of the shelter of their homes. They arrive from nearby villages. The canny organizers of the party have accomplished their purpose. They can study the girls at their leisure, decide which ones they will try to buy from their fathers or their husbands, which ones they will have to kidnap. Slavery, we are told, has been abolished. In point of fact, it still survives. In a small villa on the outskirts of an African city on the Red Sea, he gathers the children of his prostitutes in what is officially called an orphanage. Actually, it is a training school for slaves. For the first few months, the mothers can visit their children. Then, the Greek takes over, rearing the children and training them until they are old enough to be of commercial interest to the traders of the Middle East. Prices vary according to age, color of skin, and the work the child is intended for. An attractive half-caste girl of 12 may be worth as much as $5,000. We have been told that a mysterious but important personage is due to visit the Greek today. We wait, and he finally arrives, unaware of the telescopic lenses that are following his every move. He is a buyer come to examine the Greek's merchandise and to purchase the best of it. will eventually land either in a harem or in a brothel. If they look happy at the prospect before them, it is because their training under the Greek has led them to expect a life of wealth and ease and love. Several days later, we board a plane bound for Jeddah, a landing point for travelers to Mecca. We ask an officer on the plane the same question we had asked the captain of the ship. He simply hands us the passenger list. 20 persons on the flight are traveling together. Men, women, and children. 12 have round-trip tickets, and the other 8 one-way tickets. These 8 are in effect living traveler's checks that will be cashed in to pay the expenses of the return for the rest of the party.
They are women, servants, and children whom the 4 Arabs will sell as slaves. Their destiny as human traveler's checks has been decided years ago, and now they are carrying out that destiny.
Kuwait, with a population of scarcely 300,000, takes in close to $3 million a day in oil royalties. Not that these millions are allowed to trickle down, but to raise the standard of living of the people, of the Fellahin or the Bedouins. Instead, oil has brought in its wake a new biblical curse. It has raised the price of human flesh. Storage tanks and pipelines add a new and modern decorative touch to the vast emptiness of the desert. But they provide no sustenance for the people who live nearby, in hunger and misery and desperation. Water is precious, and the camel is precious. And to give the camel a rest now and then, water is drawn by slaves. These girls, 10 to 12 years old, are blindfolded to keep from getting dizzy as they take turns with the camel. The most modern equipment available is used to extract oil from thousands of feet below the surface of the earth. But water must be drawn by the effort of human slaves. For luckier children, there are model schools inside the palaces. The pupils pray before lessons begin. We are permitted to film the pupils as they come out of the royal school. More than 100, we are told, are children of the sovereign himself. Following them are the children of the princes and high dignitaries. They're clean, well-disciplined, happy children. But note that some of them do not carry books. These are children of the oil rich. Their books are carried by their personal slaves. Slaves received as gifts from their parents on their birthdays. Slaves who will grow up alongside their masters and serve as their personal gods. Most of these are children of palace slaves, and according to the law, they too are slaves. The oil millions turn into automobiles from Detroit, parking lots, and traffic cops who direct traffic straight toward the desert. We travel along the edge of the Sahara to reach the Peuls, a pastoral people once numerous and powerful, now reduced to a few thousand by mass raids of slave merchants early in this century. They no longer have any cattle of their own. The great herds they lead to pasture are owned by Arab merchants, and the Peuls are so impoverished that they willingly offer themselves in slavery to the owners of these herds. But since they cannot all be taken, The young shepherds show their masters which are the strongest and most courageous among them by submitting to flagellation. The herd owners gaze impassively on the scene, enjoying vicariously the sadistic action before them, and knowing that the strongest will survive. And the survivors smile and smile and pretend to ignore the pain. They fall on their knees and beg their Arab masters to accept their services. West to east, across the heart of Africa to Arabia. This is the great highway of slavery. Across these desert trails, we took our cameras for thousands of miles in search of secret caravans. The governments of the young African republics are doing everything in their power to wipe out the slave trade. Every day, military units on camels check the border zones. They pursue the caravans and examine the documents of the desert buses. Any of these may be engaged in the slave trade. On the border of Chad and the Sudan lies Fada, the base from which the camel patrols set out. Helicopters keep watch along the border. And we have been permitted to accompany the police on one such inspection. Yesterday, pilots spotted several caravans heading toward the wells of Kairouan, the only wells within a radius of 200 miles. All caravans leaving Chad to enter the Sudan must stop there to take on water after checking in at Fada. One caravan that suspiciously avoided Fada has moved into the throat of Kairouan, a bottleneck deep in the